y'all, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome to another, not entirely sure if it's gonna be sassy just yet, but definitely a very opinion-based, talky sort of video. I have recently expressed some kind of, people are calling me negative, you know, Snapchat and to Twitter and all the whatever. And that kind of put me in a little bit of a weird place with my content where I was like, oh, okay, I guess I should kind of step away from doing the anti-hauls and the brand discussion and the stuff like that. But I mean, having brand discussion and doing like dissection and more just, you know, videos that aren't just fluff. Y'all know I love my reviews. I love makeup. It's something I'm very passionate about. Obviously, that's why I'm here on this corner of the YouTubes. But also, as I have come along in my makeup journey, I have also come to realize that brands are not perfect. Brands need to be held accountable for all the shiz they be doing out here. And I am someone who likes to put my opinion out there. So I feel like for 2021, I'm going to be trying to focus. Yes, I want y'all's input. I want y'all to tell me what you like, what you don't like. But I'm going to try less to like listening to like the few people or whatever. And I'm going to just go forward with my content and what I want to do and what I feel brings me joy on my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about, obviously, as I say, this is all in my opinion, all in my experience, allegedly. Take my sassy rhetoric with a grain of salt or a whole salt shaker should you so feel the need. But we are going to be talking about some of the most underwhelming brands going into 2021. This isn't brand shaming. This isn't brand hating. There are some brands on here where they have products that I absolutely love. This is just taking a more analytical, a more critical look at how these brands produced in 2020 and kind of why I feel they're kind of weaker in the pack of makeup companies going into 2021. Obviously, these companies could completely blow my mind, pull it out of the whatever, release products that end up being my end-all be-all holy grail shiznit. But as of right now, we're just going to be talking about why I think, from a critical analytic point of view, why they're underwhelming and why they're kind of lingering behind the pack. And obviously, if I talk about a company that is your end-all be-all holy whateverness, that is fan-tucking-fastic. You keep doing you, boo-boo. This is just my personal opinion in my experience and my expectations. So let's just go on in and talk about some of these. The first company is one that I have not consumed any of their products, so if you feel free to click out, you don't want to hear my opinions on a brand I haven't even tried yet, feel free to do so. But it's also a company that hasn't really released anything that stands out either in their own brand or even amid any other company. The things they've been releasing have just sort of been there. And I feel like this brand procs on not necessarily the ingenuity, the uniqueness, or the accessibility of their products. And that would be Haus Labs, which I feel like is one of the kind of epitomes of a cash grab makeup line, because we all know celebrities have been making their own makeup lines for a very long time. We've got normal celebrities making their own makeup lines. We've got YouTube celebrities, beauty gurus. There is a plethora of people with fame who are taking that and then putting the energy into cosmetics. If you didn't know, Haus Labs is the makeup company, makeup brand of Lady Gaga, although I kind of see it less as like a Lady Gaga fueled brand so much as it was originally on Amazon. A lot of people had a lot of choice words about that shiz being released exclusively to Amazon. I believe I am not the only person to say that Jeff Bezos is a terrible person. So I feel when it comes down to it, anything that company does is solely for the sake of money. And I understand that things are a business. Obviously, we don't create anything not to make money. In the same way, I don't create videos not to get views. It's a cycle, people. And in the beginning, it was just like, okay, all right, I believe we started with eyeshadow sticks. I could be wrong. Like I said, this company hasn't released anything that has even slightly, remotely, partly interested me. And I think that part of my reasoning behind that is not only are they releasing sort of, I wouldn't say subpar, they're a new brand, therefore they are establishing themselves with their products. We've had lip pencils, we've had eye pencils, I think we have eyeliner, we got a couple eyeshadow palettes, we got eyeshadow little mini whatevers with 4 shades in them. So it's relatively unoffensive sort of on the outside perspective. However, probably my main problem with this is this company seems to be procking itself and establishing itself on the fact that it's, ooh, look, it's Lady Gaga. It's less her company. Say what you will about Jeffree Star, but he is disgustingly invested in his company. He is basically intertwined with his business. Now, I must admit that if I had all the whatevers that Lady Gaga had going for her, I probably wouldn't have all the time in the world to funnel into a makeup company. But I see it less as an actual passion project for her and it more as kind of like a cosmetics line ability to slap her face on something and say, look, it's Lady Gaga makeup. The company has done very little to actually stand out from any other competitor, packaging-wise, aesthetic-wise, ad campaign-wise, and product-wise. It's sort of, kind of, I feel, run-of-the-mill cosmetics that's main shilling point is the fact that it's Haus Labs, Lady Gaga's company. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm super critical, maybe I'm super picky, but I haven't seen them do anything where I see them going into 2020 being any kind of contender amidst all of these other companies with very established aesthetics, established formulas, established products, you know, that are strong companies within themselves that are able to stand alone and stand the test of time. When I look at Haus Labs, I honestly think, okay, basic Amazon makeup. The kind of makeup where you go onto Amazon and you're like, all right, type in lip whatever, and you see something for $9. You're like, okay, that looks okay. While her price point isn't exorbitant, I feel like the cosmetics provided don't exactly exude any sort of high-end experience. Like I said before, I feel like it's just someone, some company, some business, some organization taking her face, slapping it on something because it'll sell stuff. That is the only thing I see going for this company here. Yet another company that I have not tried anything from. Again, sort of in the same vein where I'm like, they haven't released anything that looks any kind of interesting. Also from a celebrity sort of makeup line, Nikita Dragun decided she was going to try her hand at opening a beauty brand. So we have Dragun Beauty, whose amazing first release was like a color corrector and some setting powders. Not saying that every company has to come out with an eyeshadow palette first. I just think that maybe you could take some time and come up with something a little bit more innovative for your first release, especially considering the fact that the main selling point of that first release was this fancy bedazzled dragon egg that people went to the dollar store to make. Companies that bank themselves on more of an aesthetic and more of the presentation of their product and less on the strength of their products, I feel aren't gonna last long. But we've come a while from the color corrector and the setting powders. We have released a face palette that was made, the packaging was made with like never before discovered science and technology. Not sure what we'd say about the products on the inside, but that packaging, we put every ounce, every little bit of blood, sweat, and tears into that packaging. We have some lip products, and as least at the time of filming this, we have some $30 5-pan eyeshadow palettes where the pans are shaped like little dragon eggs with some nice cute little embossing. Dragon egg shaped pans, a little bit of bossing does not a good product make. Now, while I can't attest to the quality of any of these products myself, I feel like the brand on a whole is just a little bit gimmicky. Whereas House Labs was sort of unassuming, didn't have a crazy amount of aesthetic as you would. Dragon Beauty seems to bank itself on its aesthetic, on its presentation, on how Instagrammable the packaging and the ad campaigns are, which is great. You need an established aesthetic. You need to put yourself out there, mark your brand, make it your own. But when that becomes the main selling point, rather than creating innovative products that can compete, let alone stand the test of time, I feel like we're not making the right creative choices here. Like I said, these companies could blow me out of the water and create something that is the absolute bomb diggity shiznit. They have not done this so far, and Dragon Beauty is just a underwhelming. Anytime I see any kind of ad or any kind of whatever, I'm like, okay, all right, we're all kinds of pretty and all kinds of whatever with our boobs up. I don't have nothing against boobs. I have an OnlyFans, but at the same time, when boobs becomes your marketing ploy, should we really be in makeup? Maybe get into some other industry that would work better. Once again, when it comes to new companies, an example I like to use is Mandy MUA's Lunar Beauty. This company has a very established aesthetic, very well thought out, well presented, good formulated products, and has been very unproblematic. Mandy is not out here releasing 5-pan eyeshadows for $30. I'm sorry. But when you are a new brand on the block, you are the newcomer, I feel that it's just a titch ballsy for you to charge $30, a $30 premium for your 5 eyeshadows, which we don't even know are good yet. You haven't earned your makeup stripes yet. I haven't seen Dragon Beauty release anything that actually stands out. I haven't seen them really establish themselves as a solid brand that has products that are consistent quality-wise, that are consistent release-wise. They're sort of just kind of running around doing whatever they want. And again, like I said, when you have a company whose main selling point is presentation, packaging, and aesthetic, I kind of wonder about how much thought is put into the cosmetics, and aesthetics, presentation, and pretty packaging can only get you so far. Another brand that kind of makes me sad, but 2020 has kind of been, the word pitiful comes to mind for this company. KVD, formerly Kat Von D, formerly a brand that I would have died for on my channel. We are now Kendo Vegan Kamehameha Beauty. And as such, with this rebranding and of having Kat Von D step away from it, they've just been really struggling. They're running around using leftover Kat Von D packaging and filling up the units with whatever kind of eyeshadows they have left. We're like, we gotta get rid of this componentry that very clearly says on it, Kat Von D. And they haven't really been spending a lot of time establishing themselves either as something aside from Kat Von D or as sort of a growing new addition to KVD. They're really stuck within her aesthetic while still trying to distance themselves from her as a creator, but the way they've been going about the rebranding, they haven't been doing it very well. I understand the need to use up leftover componentry. That stuff's not going to sell itself. It's expensive, but it doesn't help your rebranding when you literally change yourself to something that is entirely different, and then you use the packaging that is the direct name of what you're changing yourself from. It doesn't look good, and it kind of makes it seem like you've got a little bit of an identity crisis. The word that comes most to my mind is just awkward. They came out with the lip vinyls and those blushes. I absolutely love those. And then they came out with the kitten new pop, and then the glam rock one, and then the vegan pigments for holiday. There hasn't been a lot of actually establishing themselves as their own unit, rather has it been using up the componentry and using up the themes that didn't get finished while Kat was still a part of the company. We gotta talk about a controversial one, although I guess any of these could be considered controversial. We're gonna talk about Monsieur Jeffree Star, which I must admit is a name that I don't think I ever would have had on this kind of a list, and honestly never would have thought KVD would be either. And now, Jeffree isn't necessarily on this list for his lack of good products, for his lack of, very solid releases, for his quality. He's on here for sort of a varying different reason. We all know the 2020 was interesting for Jeffree. It wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst, he had some knockout releases, we had a lot of controversy. And one thing that he started to see was a definite dip in sales. Started off kind of weak with the Bloodlust, then I'm pretty sure Cremated was after that, then we did Orgy, then we did Blood Money. So we had a lot of releases, but I feel kind of his downfall is his inability to take criticism. If I would be so bold as to say, I would say that he is almost in the same point that Kat Von D was when her company started to go down. Now, I haven't seen the same slide in his consistency, although apparently there was a lot of issues with both the large and the small Orgy palettes. There apparently was a lot of patchiness, the little shimmer palette started growing some hard pan, crumbling. It was all kinds of sort of unprecedented quality issues that we hadn't seen from him before. Because while I was on the Jeffree Star bag, and y'all know that I praise the ever-loving shiz out of his quality control. Color story and all that jazz aside, I only really had issues with one of his eyeshadow palettes, and that was the Thirsty palette. But I feel as though he's sort of starting to feel the strain. I don't think we're nearly at a critical max as we were with Kat Von D, where I was just like, I don't think this company's gonna make it another year. And I don't think either that Jeffree Star would ever step away from his company the way that Kat Von D did. That company is him just as much as he is the company. Like, they are completely intertwined. Kat Von D, she's the founder, she's the whatever, it had her name on it, she could step away. Jared Blandino of Too Faced could step away. Jeffree Star, without Jeffree Star Cosmetics, I feel like he'd shut the whole thing down before he said, I'm leaving. Part of that could be a little bit of like a pride issue or anything like that, but I just feel like him as a company and his cosmetics aren't exactly as infallible as they used to be. Now, say what you will about him, but a large majority of his products are really stinking good. I love 99.99999% of his eyeshadow palettes that I have. I love Bomb Diggity Shiznit. But we've now reached a point. This is interesting. Let me just take a moment. We have reached a point in makeup consumerism. When Kat started to go down, the quality of her products had started to slip. So that sort of aided in the landslide that was her brand's decline. Jeffree, on the other hand, although while maintaining the majority of his products, I feel like in his case, it's going to be a situation of good formulations may not be enough to save him. People aren't boycotting him because his makeup isn't good. People are boycotting him and not buying from him because he's problematic AF and got all kinds of issues up in here. And kind of in the same way, if you think about it, KVD started to go down after that whole anti-vax thing. It was just sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. Like a slow and excruciating broken back, but I feel the same sort of situation has come with Jeffree, where he's reached this pinnacle, this precipice, where he's just maybe not going to be able to make it all the way over it. So whereas we had Kat, where we had her issues, coupled with her lack of quality that had started falling compared to years of amazing quality control. We're gonna have Jeffree, where he's got that quality, but is quality, are good cosmetics enough to keep him as a main player in the makeup game? Obviously, I don't know. This is me just saying all like my whatevers, but I feel like going in to 2021, him and his company just aren't quite as untouchable as they used to seem to be. All right. Let's talk about another company who has a lot of products that I absolutely love, but also a company that I don't want to say beef with. They kind of annoy the ever-living friggin' shiz out of me. You probably know who this company is. Feel free to leave your guesses down below. Colourpop, the headache in everyone's mind. And you're probably thinking, Soraya, why, what do you mean? What do you mean underwhelming? Colourpop releases something every other week, and that's sort of the point here. Colourpop used to be a company who made waves within the community. I remember when they released their first pressed eyeshadow palette, everybody lost their shiz. I find it funny though that we had no idea about the floodgates we were going to be releasing with that said eyeshadow palette. I mean, in some cases, hindsight be all kinds of 2020 where we're like, wow, they released the one eyeshadow palette and it's so revolutionary. Whereas now they've been releasing an eyeshadow palette every other week with just sort of the same tones mixed up a little bit and thrown in a different aesthetic. Colourpop is a company that needs to be held to task. Colourpop is a company that needs to take a moment and slow things down. I feel like amid the way, they've sort of maybe lost a part of themselves because they have been doing absolutely nothing but releasing anything and everything. I feel like Colourpop makes up at least 20% of the makeup market saturation. You know, you have all the other, and they make up 20% of that saturation because they release so much. And we've gotten to the point where it's become a bit redundant. There's only so much you can do with the same eyeshadows. There's only so many punny, cutesy, quirky eyeshadow palettes and makeup releases and collections that you can do. We've had every tone of taupe and beige under the sun given to us on a different aesthetic. We've had wine. We've had flowers, we've had all matte palettes, we've had big palettes, we've had cactus palettes, we've had controversial palettes, we've had the never-ending slew of licensed material palettes and collections. Colourpop has become the Disney of the makeup world. They love to get their little hands on intellectual property and use it to make some money. Nothing wrong with making money, but myself as a consumer, I feel I have the right to address my issues with them. And my issue with them is simply the fact that at this point, Colourpop is doing the same thing over and over again. And when they do something a little bit different, what they end up doing is what I would consider the bare minimum. That's my probably biggest problem with them. They hype us all up with some sort of intellectual collaboration, or they show us some kind of something, and then we have the big reveal and you're just like, oh, okay. Nothing revolutionary, nothing cutting edge. Once again, just sort of more of the sameness. I enjoy Colourpop. Y'all know their monochromatic palettes, some of my end all be all. But on a whole, I tend to find that the company as an absolute unit, I had them in my favorite brands. And honestly, they were in my favorite brands simply because there were so many products by them that I liked, not because I enjoyed them as a company on a whole where I would with Melt Cosmetics, Kaleidos, Midas, any of those companies where they kind of have my heart full and whole, whereas Colourpop, I'm like, I like you because you have some of the things that I like, but I kind of don't like. It's like friends with benefits. You know, I like you for your eyeshadow, but I don't actually want to be with you. And that's due in part to the fact that at some point they used to be a company that released nice, well-curated, thought out releases to us. Now they're just, like I said, I've said it probably, this is the horse that I have beat to absolute death in 2020, is that I am through with Colourpop's nonsense of just releasing everything. And I understand, I've been told a couple of times, well, you're not looking at this makeup subjectively. You're not looking at it from the view of someone who isn't your makeup experience. It's not that I hate them. Well, I mean, I don't hate them. I'm just really, really tired of their shenanigans. I'm a mom who is at her wit's end. I have had it up to here with all of their foolishness, with all of their cutesy and kitschy little releases. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's just they release something and my eyes just roll out the back of my head. Colourpop used to be an end-all, be-all, amazing quality brand, whereas now they have just turned into a eyeshadow pumping, licensed material cash grab machine. That's the majority of what I see. Anytime they like release something, they're like, oh, it's hocus pocus, or oh, it's thus and such. I don't think, oh, they're doing this collaboration because it's something that the brand feels passionate about. They're doing it because it's something they can slap on a collection and make money out of. And I'm pretty much over it at this point. Let's talk about a brand that I feel has, out of all of these, the most potential, especially when we're taking into consideration celebrity YouTuber collections and companies. Patrick Star, who has been a relatively unproblematic YouTuber, although I hate using the word unproblematic, because someone did a tweet, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, please don't call me unproblematic. We are all problematic in our own ways, which is true. No one person is ever going to be 110% unproblematic. But from a YouTube beauty influencer point of view, he has been relatively unproblematic. And he decided he was going to release his own makeup line. I believe it is one size, as in makeup is a one size fits all, which is a very nice sentiment and something that I can most definitely get behind. He came onto the scene with makeup remover wipes, a makeup remover mist, followed shortly behind, let's see here, we've had setting powder, we've had eyeshadow, we have an eyeliner. He kind of came onto the scene and then boom, 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 we had a lot of releases kind of one after the other, which personally for me and my makeup whatevers, I like it when a company kind of takes its time, because it feels like it's like taking time to analyze and look at the market and look at what's needed, what's going to work best for them, rather than just sort of having this set of releases that's just like done just back to back. That is just me though. Feel free to disagree. And I put this one on the list simply because I feel like, due to the heavy oversaturation, the market peak that we're at with all these companies and all this makeup being released, it is a lot more difficult to stand out amidst just the chaos. You're gonna have to release something that's gonna be really memorable, something that's gonna be iconic, something that's going to kind of set the tone for your company on a whole. Now, I feel like this isn't something that's necessarily gonna happen overnight. An example that I will use again, Lunar Beauty started off with I lost my notebook. Started off with the Lifes of Drag palette and just really nicely evolved into his very well established aesthetic. He also wasn't releasing something every other week. I adore Lunar Beauty, one of my absolute favorite brands. Whereas I feel, this is gonna sound really, I'm not trying to sound shady at all, but I feel like the products that Patrick released for 1 star, I'm not sure if it's just me, but I feel like it was less sort of the start of a company, of his own brand, and it felt sort of like a collaboration. I didn't feel a lot of him behind the products. Now that, like I said, maybe me, he isn't someone that I watch regularly, so maybe I have no idea what him is in a product. I feel like the company has a lot of potential, but I also think that it just sort of like came and went. There's so much of this like, hey, here, this is the hot new thing, and then it's gone. It is an especially difficult thing to be on top of all these different releases and making your mark within the community. And I feel like he kind of sort of tried to counteract that by releasing sort of the 1, the 2, the 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7 products to kind of just maintain that relevance amidst all of the going back and forth. I was really interested in trying the aerosol whatever, but apparently aerosols are really freaking bad for the environment. Makeup wipes aren't any better. I am desperately trying to reduce the huge ginormous carbon footprint I already have. The eyeshadow palette was okay. Once again, I will reiterate, the makeup that he was coming out with felt a little bit less like his own branded company and more just a collaboration or just a makeup line that he put his face on rather than something that truly embodied him as a person. That's kind of the problem I have with House Labs, where it doesn't really feel like her company. It just feels like it has her name, her face, and her branding on it. But I feel like out of a lot of these, the Patrick Star One Size Beauty, I feel like that is a brand that could end up doing really good things in the new year. Obviously, gonna have to wait and see. God only knows what these companies are gonna come out with, and God knows there's gonna be at least 20 other people making their own makeup lines in 2021 that his brand is going to end up having to compete with. I didn't get through my entire list, but I feel like I touched the ones that were really relevant, because I had ones that were like Tarte, Too Faced, Urban Decay. There were a lot of mainstream brands that were just underwhelming, under the radar snooze fest this year. Like I said, obviously, this is my opinion. This is just me talking about stuff that interests me. This is just me being introspective and all kinds of whatever. So it kind of makes sense that that sort of whatever is expressing itself on here. But I would love to hear what y'all have to say about these companies. If these brands are your favorite, and all be all, they make every product you love. That is amazing. I'm so happy for you. And also let me know a brand down below that you thought was was underwhelming and fell a little short in 2020. But thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah!